Hello, my name is Miwa, and today I'll be talking about endometrium and menstrual cycle. Before actually getting into the topic, let me explain how the highlights in my slides work. Red highlights are for terminologies that you must know for the exam. Orange is for terms recommended to know for ace in the exam, though not essential. And green is for terms that you do not need to memorize, but just good to keep in mind. Let's start with the basics. The uterine wall consists of 3 layers: the outer perimetrium, the middle myometrium, and the inner endometrium. Today, we'll focus on the endometrium. Now, let's look at the structure of the endometrium. The endometrium is the mucus layer of the uterus. It consists of the epithelium and the lamina propria. The lamina propria is rich in type 3 collagen, which forms reticular fibers, and is divided into the pale functional layer and the darker basal layer. The functional layer, further divided into the pars compacta and pars spongiosa, is the part that sheds during menstruation. The basal layer contains more cells, including fibroblasts and stem cells. The lamina propria houses spiral arteries, which play an important role in the shedding mechanism. Blood from these arteries drains into the lacunae. The epithelium includes a luminal epithelium, which covers the surface, and the glandular epithelium, which forms the uterine glands. These glands are simple tubular structures, but becomes coiled during the secretory phase of the menstrual cycle. The epithelial cells are covered with microvilli, which are lost once implantation occurs. Finally, it is important to note that the endometrium contains no adipocytes. Here are histological slides of the endometrium. You can clearly see the 2 distinct layers in the lamina propria, the darker and cellular basal layer and the spongy functional layer. You can also see cross-sections of the uterine glands. Next, let's move on to the menstrual cycle. The cycle begins with menstruation or bleeding, marking the start of the menstrual phase, which lasts for 3 to 4 days. During this phase, the functional layer of the endometrium sheds. Then, the proliferative phase or follicular phase lasts for 8 to 10 days. During this phase, the lost mucosa is restored. Ovulation follows, leading to the secretory phase, which lasts for 14 days. During this phase, the mucosa continues to grow in preparation for possible implantation. Let's now look at each phase in more detail. First, the proliferative phase, also known as the follicular phase. The primary event here is the growth of the mucosa initiated by follicle-stimulating hormones, or FSH, from the anterior pituitary gland. FSH promotes follicular growth into a graphene follicle, which secretes hormones such as estrogen. Estrogen stimulates the reconstruction of the endometrium. Next is the secretory phase, also known as the luteal phase. After ovulation, the follicle becomes the corpus luteum, which secretes progesterone along with estrogen. Progesterone plays a key role by stimulating the epithelium to store glycogen, an energy source in case of implantation, making the epithelium PAS positive. It also causes the uterine glands to coil, inhibits myometrial contractions, and prevents unnecessary endometrial shedding. If implantation does not occur, the cycle proceeds to the menstrual phase. As the corpus luteum degenerates, progesterone level drops, leading to vascular spasm and the spiral arteries, and the release of prostaglandins from the arterial walls. This is followed by strong vasoconstriction of the spinal arteries, which triggers the release of cytokines. Leukocytes then begin secreting enzymes such as collagenase and matrix metalloproteinase. You don't have to memorize the names of these enzymes, but you can tell they're enzymes that destroy collagen and protein, respectively. Finally, the functional layer of the endometrium is destroyed. And that wraps up the key points on the endometrium and the menstrual cycle. I hope you found this interesting.